a little bit because I didn't have an idea. But I started drawing anyway, and what I ended up with was something I didn't expect. And that brings me to what I want to talk about today, creativity. I think a big part of creativity is simply stepping forward and just starting to do something, anything. So for whatever subconscious reason, I started drawing a balloon rising up, and I thought, what if the balloon wants to be in the sky, but it feels tied down and stuck because of its string? So it wants to break free and fly. So I gave it a face, but then it was kind of boring looking, and I didn't really like the way the pen was looking. But I had the start of my idea. So I started over with a cuter face and a thinner pen. I like the face designs in Adventure Time, so that's kind of what I went for here. So as I drew the balloon, like my lines are a little sketchy. I actually remember in high school, my art teacher would get really annoyed at sketchy lines. He would tell us to just stop being so sketchy, just put the pen on the paper and draw a line. Okay, so here when the balloon stops, I gave it a little stretch so you can feel the jolt as it stops. I also didn't realize how much my head was getting in the way of the camera, so here's the anticipation before it goes up. Anticipation in animation is like the wind-up before an action. It's the stretch back before throwing a ball, or the breath in before a sneeze. It's all the build-up of tension before an action. And the bigger you make that anticipation, or the longer you hold it, the more tension you build up. And then the stronger you can make that action feel. So this isn't like a huge anticipation here, but it is still critical to make the balloon's action of leaping upward feel stronger. And then the stretch here, it's like another anticipation before the string breaks. I wanted to really build up that tension here and have it be really high before the string snapped. So I held it here stretching for a while, and I kept it stretching a little further each frame. So that tension keeps going up, and you can feel it, and then snap, you get that big action and the tension breaks. I also wanted to mention, whenever I'm doing a big action or something, I'm just not exactly sure how it's going to work, I will draw it in pencil first to test it, and then when I'm happy with it, I'll go back and ink over it. So I mentioned creativity. At this point in the flipbook, I still didn't have an ending figured out. I imagined the balloon breaking free and just floating off alone in the sky. I wondered about it, going up into space or something. But then I liked the idea of the balloon rising up and joining a group of other balloons, almost like a bird catching up with a flock flying south for the winter. Kind of that feeling of arriving at the place and people where you know you belong. So I went with that. So with this group of balloons floating, it was kind of simple. I just was able to offset the pages a little bit each time, kind of diagonally, and then I could trace it and give it some diagonal movement that way. I wanted the lone balloon to float up somewhat diagonally, so I drew a line in pencil on each page in the same place, and this marked out the path. And then I was able to just line up to that path each page to keep the balloon following a consistent direction. For this final shot, I wanted the balloons to feel more floaty, kind of just more organic and separate from each other, so that meant doing different speeds for each one. So to help me draw them all faster, I cut out a paper template of the balloon shape, and then I could just trace that shape for each balloon, and it made drawing them a lot faster. Then to have the balloons each moving at different speeds, I just used different increments for each one. So I did it one balloon at a time. I would do one, go through all the pages, then go back and do the next balloon through all the pages. For coloring, I used my Copic markers. I tried a few different colors for the main balloon, but for some reason this pinkish color just kind of felt like the right color that it needed to be. For the rest of the coloring, I like doing just one object or color at a time. So you go through each page doing all the yellows, then go back and do all the blues, and then you're not like capping and uncapping your markers a bajillion times. So creativity. I had no idea what this animation would be when I started, and that's really my big tip. If you're ever feeling stuck or blank creatively, just kind of take a step into the unknown and start doing something. Drawing, free writing, whatever it is, start doodling until you stumble on something that grabs your interest or sparks an idea, and then build on that. Speaking of creativity, before we look at the finished animation, I want to thank Audible for sponsoring today's video. Audible has the largest selection of audiobooks on the planet, and one of my favorites is Creativity, Inc. It's an incredible book by Ed Catmull, the president of Pixar Animation. He dives deep into the culture, leadership, and the creative process which has allowed Pixar to create some of the most amazing animated films. One of my favorite quotes from this audiobook is, "The unpredictable is the ground on which creativity occurs." And that for me is the perfect way to look at creativity. It is very often unpredictable, and because of that, it's an adventure, and that is what I love about it. You can get this audiobook free or another of your choice when you sign up for a free 30-day trial. Just head over to audible.com/andymation or text andymation to 500-500. I often listen to audiobooks as I animate, and there is no better place to listen than Audible. Again, get your free 30-day trial and download your audiobook at audible.com/andymation or text andymation to 500-500. All right, let's check out the finished flipbook. Thank you guys so much for watching. The channel recently crossed 300,000 subscribers, and it blows my mind. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Keep creating, and I'll see you in the next video.